Washington minus the Heritage Foundation, a powerful conservative think tank, played a significant role in shaping President Trump's cabinet, and tilting it far to the right, is expected to replace its leader, the former South Carolina Senator and Tea Party leader Jim DeMint. The anticipated shake-up, which was confirmed by two people with knowledge of the fraught internal dynamics, comes at an inopportune time for the group, with several major pieces of conservative legislation on the agenda in Congress. The budget, a tax overhaul, and health care are all issues that Heritage has tried to influence, with varying degrees of success. A spokesman for the foundation did not return a request for comment. Mr. DeMint's abrupt ouster, described by people as a coup against him, was the result of a larger debate among conservative donors who fund the group. One of its board members is Rebecca Mercer, a reclusive donor who has helped propel the White House chief strategist, Stephen K. in his effort to dismantle aspects of the political establishment. Ms. Mercer was described by people with knowledge of the events as helping drive the effort toward a shake-up. Another person close to the discussions, who asked not to be identified, said that Mr. DeMint was not seen as sufficiently pro-Trump by some members of the board. A likely candidate to take over, said one person with knowledge of the situation, is Edwin J. Foylner, a former president of Heritage who has worked closely with the Trump administration. Last month's failure of the Republican plan to repeal the Affordable Care Act was a difficult test. Heritage, and conservative groups like it, which have fought for years to gut the law, the foundation and its political arm, Heritage Action for America, pushed aggressively for a full repeal, which would have left none of the original 2010 law in place. That was further than Mr. Trump and Republican congressional leaders wanted to go. The health care repeal failure was both confounding and disappointing for many conservatives. With Republicans in control of both chambers of Congress and the White House, many saw the lack of success on such a core issue as a sign of ineptitude on the part of their leaders in Washington. Heritage, which rose to prominence during the Reagan administration, and remains a home for many Reagan-era aides like Edwin Meese, the former Attorney General, has come to represent the hard-line, uncompromising vision for conservatism associated with the Tea Party movement and its leaders in Congress. Under President Barack Obama's administration, Heritage shifted to become more engaged in direct political combat. After decades of producing mountains of high-fiber white papers, the think tank became more defined by a political arm, sought to hold Republican lawmakers accountable rather than just supplying them with the raw materials, legislation. By the time Mr. Trump became president, Heritage Action had emerged as one of the leading conservative pressure groups in Washington. It gleefully flayed congressional Republicans who were quick to compromise or, in their eyes, capitulate to the party establishment. But to some Heritage board members, this shift toward activism represented a disturbing drift from the organization's core mission as a research institution. According to two senior aides to Republican lawmakers close to Heritage, and a longtime conservative public relations strategist, to these board members, the research suffered. Mr. DeMint's apparent undoing was, in part, a reflection of the dissatisfaction of those inside Heritage who believed the organization was too much of a sideline player in the health care debate. According to one person familiar with the reasons behind his ouster, Mr. DeMint was blamed for not positioning heritage to make a more effective and convincing case for a full repeal of the Affordable Care Act. He is highly compensated, earning more than $1 million in 2015 alone, according to tax documents. As a novice who is new to the ways of Washington and unfamiliar with the complexities of running the sprawling federal bureaucracy, Mr. Trump leaned heavily on heritage to help steer his agenda and staff his administration. The group was one of the players working on the president's team, led to the selection of Neil M. Gorsuch as Mr. Trump's Supreme Court pick. But beyond that, its impact on more recent battles was limited.